rosa con su talla perdón. Y muy tirado de blanco, la sigue Stanislau. Y comienza la rumba con un gran furor. Y se viste de fiesta mi amante corazón. Bomba caram, bomba caram, bomba. Me dijo a mí que no se corta con tijera a todo el mundo material que se le marca el bomba caram, bomba. Vamos a gozar con mi conga. Bomba caram, bomba caram, bomba. Bomba la que bomba, la que bomba, la que bomba. Bomba la que bomba, la que bomba, la que bomba. Bomba caram, bomba caram, bomba caram, bomba caram, bomba la bomba. Pollito lindo, pa' que te traigo la tonga. Comparacum, 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 pa' que conga. Bomba caram, bomba caram, bomba caram, bomba caram, bomba la bomba. Vaya.
¡Eso! ¡Viene Osorio!
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Diamond Rivera, and this is the Live Discussions with Diamond podcast, episode 158. And before we get started, this episode is sponsored by Tuba Chata Radio. Also, you can catch this podcast on YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, and other streaming platforms. And tonight, people, this amazing Sunday, we have a very special guest. We're taking it all the way to New Jersey. We have the one and only Diana Osorio-Nieves.
Hi.
Hey, Diana. Honestly, first, before we get started, I have to say, just seeing that video, it brings back so many memories. As well as we talked, I think that was the last video you did right before COVID hit.
Yes, actually it is.
My God, question is, how did you feel kind of seeing that video? Like, what did you when you saw it? What was kind of going through your mind?
Well, the first thing was, I hope I can still move like that.
My
I was
God.
like, wow, okay.
Hey, it's a flashback, but honestly, for me, as I've told many people, but if people like yourself, the reason I do this platform is because many artists like ourselves, people see us through a visual, through a performance, but not a lot of times get to understand who we are as people. And I think that's so important because I think a lot of times our careers can get lost because we usually have our friends and the people we have our people just in our studios and the people we bond with, but there's so many people that admire our art, admire our performances, and admire us as artists. And now having a platform like this that gives artists like you the chance to speak your truths, tell your story from your mouth, I think that's really important. So for me, it really is an honor to have you here because as well, MDN for many years, well over a decade, especially from Jersey, for me, is one of the most, how should I say, in my opinion, one of the most fundamentally sound companies. And what I mean is coming from the teachers to the students, the curriculum, it's really structured. And that's something I truly admire from people like Marcus and women like yourself. Having you on is a huge honor for me. So I thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I mean, and of course, like many people who do know, you are expecting. So definitely a big, big congratulations.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And question is Would you like the baby to be a dancer? Is that something in the future?
Well, his father definitely wants him to be a dancer. I'm more the parent that prefers him to choose what he wants to be, kind of wherever his life takes him. But I
Mm.
mean, I would definitely want him to know how to dance. But if he chooses dance as his career, I would want it to be his choice.
That is special. I mean, as well, that happens in a lot of artists' lives, especially when it comes to families. And usually the parents who are dancers, it kind of trickles down. But I just love hearing kind of your side to that. But as I do in this podcast, my focus as well, of course, celebrating your artistry, the things you've been able to accomplish over the years. But also, I think it's extremely important understanding the person beyond the stage, the person beyond the costumes, the performances, the traveling, the rehearsals, understanding who you are. So, as I do with every guest, I always take it back, kind of starting from the beginning and kind of culminating and ending towards the present. So, Diana, kind of give us an understanding of who Diana Osorio-Nieves is before MDN, before the shows, and before it all.
So before I started dancing.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Well, before I started dancing, I was still always involved in music.
Hmm.
I was a jazz artist for 10 years. I
Wow.
played saxophone.
Okay. Okay.
So that was like my ultimate goal in life before salsa came around. I always wanted to be one of the first Latin jazz
Oh,
saxophonists. That was like my thing. And I sang jazz for a while too. So I would like
okay.
accompany jazz bands and all that stuff. Um, so that was my thing before dance. It was singing and playing music. Um, yeah, that was my thing, and doing a lot of like television stuff.
Wow. So, because realizing too, with many of our dance careers, how the things we've done before that kind of helped us and streamlined us into the careers to make it more comfortable. Like you said,
Hmm.
you being involved in music before into the dancing, I think that also shows through your dancing, showing the musicality, showing that you understand music. But
Mm.
one thing I can say, my wife is also a former saxophone player.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
one thing is, I know those are expensive. Those things are a pretty penny. And honestly, that's a beautiful thing because when it comes to musicians, and I think really there's a lack of representation of women musicians,
Hmm.
especially in the saxophone
Yeah.
setting. Because, you see a lot, I've seen a lot more women tend to play more drums, even guitars, but saxophone is a really just intricate instrument. Many people, I believe, know, I think it's Kenny G, that's like the
Yeah.
famous person, but there's so many more. So a question I have kind of diving into that is, what was it like, or what was that experience like really picking up a saxophone for the first time?
Well, it's funny because when I first started playing, I was in the
Mhm.
fourth grade.
Okay.
And my music teacher was like, all right, well, if you want to join the band, there's only two instruments left. There's a trumpet and there's a saxophone.
Mm.
And the first thing I said to myself was, well, I don't really see a lot of women playing the saxophone. So if I'm going to kind of think back all
Yeah.
the way when I was really, really young, it was always like this like moment of like feminism. Like
Okay.
people are not going to expect a woman to pick up a saxophone. So I was like, saxophone it is.
Wow. And so what was it like, or have you had, of course, had that chance to play live and in front of people? What was that experience like for you?
So being like right now, I'm dancing over the music, but being part of the music
Yeah.
itself is a total different experience because you're hearing everything from the inside. Like you're
Hmm.
hearing all the sounds coming together. So especially when it comes to like doing choreographies, it's always a battle of, do you hear this and do you hear that?
Yeah.
But dancers are like, no, I
What?
don't hear it. I'm like, how could you not hear it? Because your mind is open to so many different instruments and different sounds
Mhm.
because I understand what's happening in the background.
It's true. I think that's also a rarity in our scene because I think many people just get lost in the song, but in a sense they get lost through the song because they don't understand all of the instruments that are being played, from the claves, the saxophones, everything entailed. So I think that's also something I think many people should understand is musicality from all forms. So, you know, as many people know you as a dancer and as well in the beauty scene that we'll get into a little bit later, kind of now understanding how you got into dance, because I've talked to many artists on this platform, and many people give me the answer of dance has always been a part of my life. I started when I was very young. But from your standpoint, how did dance get involved into your life?
Well, before I started dancing, I used to hate dance. Like
Oh,
I would
okay.
be embarrassed watching my mother and my sister dance in the living room, and I would be the one in the corner like, "Can you stop? Like you're embarrassing me," you know? Like I would not bop my head to music at all. Like I
Mm,
would play music, but I wouldn't be, hanging out in the
yeah.
corner like moving. No way. No way. Um so how I got into dance, um when I was 14, I had like a little moment where I had ran away from home,
Mm,
and I went to a family member um for shelter, and she actually brought me to the studio without telling me where she was taking me. She was just
mhm.
like, "Get dressed, we're going somewhere." And I'm like, "Okay, sure." And I just remember it was like a super hot summer day, and we walked like 2 miles. And I was like, "Where
Oh,
are we going?" And then she like took me to, at the time, the studio was in a church.
oh,
So we're
wow.
walking up to this church, and I'm like, "What's going on here?" And it was a salsa studio. It was MDN, 15 years ago exactly. And she was like, "Oh, I'm here because my niece wants to take classes." And I was like, "No, I don't." She's like, "Yes, you do." And I was like, "All right." And then I just so happened to like pick up really quickly,
Mhm.
so then it just got addicted to it.
Wow, that's interesting. That story of kind of that guardian at the time just taking you somewhere. And when you said 2 miles, I'm assuming you're talking about New Jersey 2 miles.
Yeah.
And New Jersey 2 miles are like you need to drive 2 miles. So that
Yeah.
right there is an experience. So then taking that first class, what was it like for you? Was it kind of you were bored, didn't want to do it, or you kind of like, all right, first few steps, kind of interesting?
It was more like the first day I went there, there was a class already in session.
Mm,
And one of the assistant instructors was just, like, feeling me out, joking around, like,
yeah.
"Come, let me see." Because I was like, they asked me, like, "Do you dance salsa already?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I dance," which
Oh man.
kind of dance.
That's
And then, like if I was out with my friends, and yeah, maybe I'll throw like a salsa basic, but it was
oh,
like on two without the
oh,
second step.
okay, okay. The
So the
home way, the
rhythm was
house
right. At
way.
least I didn't have to convert that.
Okay,
But they were just like social dancing with me, kind of seeing if I would follow.
gotcha.
They're like, "Oh, you have really good natural rhythm," and I'm just like, "Okay, like I really don't want to do this." But it was just like a forced hobby at the time, and then you just grow to love it. And I was like, "All right, I could do this," and then it became an addiction, and I never left.
Wow, that's interesting because even you saying forced hobby, that's actually what happened to me, but I was 5 years old and my grandmother said, "You're not leaving, so just get it over with." And it was kind
Oh,
of that thing of getting you out of your neighborhood, even though I was five, but from five and now I'm 30, 25 years later, I can say for me, this art form of dance, especially salsa, has given me so much, has helped me build relationships and meet artists like yourself. So then when going into this class, like you said, in MDN, and then as you said, over time, it became an addiction. How long did it take for you to really kind of get a grasp of really the fundamentals? Because many artists sometimes they say it takes a month, 2 months, a few years.
um, I mean, like the basic fundamentals, like learning the syllabus, it,
Mhm.
it took me maybe like 3 or 4 months to master
Okay.
like the syllabus, because I was practicing all the time, all the time. But as far as like really grasping the dance and feeling comfortable in my own skin dancing,
Yes.
um, I would say maybe like right before COVID.
And
honestly.
that's very interesting. That's very
Yeah. Like even
interesting.
still, like now when I teach, I'm like, oh, okay, even that makes more sense to me now than it did
Mhm.
before. So it's like the more experience you have, the more you're able to explain things better and the more you understand your body, as opposed to just like learning a step, learning the timing, learning the
Mhm.
movements. The more you do it, the better you can explain it and the more it becomes like part of you. So even still there's some things that I'm not 1000% comfortable with. It's like
Yeah.
dance is a growing process. Dance is always evolving, so you're always changing and adapting.
Absolutely. I mean, because and that right there is also very interesting. What you said is that it's still a process. It's like you said,
Hmm.
you even really with COVID, that's when you finally got comfortable because many people that I've talked to on here, I think a lot of people in who are not dancers, maybe social dancers or spectators, think the artists that they see have that full 100% confidence in what they do and who they are.
Hmm.
And some artists that I've talked to, not saying you, but many artists that I've talked to told me they almost put on a total new persona to fit that moment because
Hmm.
many people that I know, many artists, they're human beings. The vulnerability aspect kicks in extreme, especially when you go from just a student to now a performer. And that's a whole different beast of you're just going from taking a few classes or going to a social with your heels and your jeans or your shoes and your shirt and now changing that outfit and turning it into a costume. So before we even get into the performing aspect, what was your first social dance like? I want everyone to know. Like your first social you went to, that first dance, do you remember those moments?
I do actually.
And how was it like the cliche, everything went amazing or
So my first social ever was Jimmy Anton's,
ooh,
but
which
I'm
one?
talking like Jimmy Anton's 15 years ago, like in the
Yes.
original location, like
Yeah, I
way.
think near like 11th Street.
Yeah, I think so.
Yep.
It was like way, way back in the day. It was like a little smaller location where it was just straight dancing all
Mhm.
day, sweat it out, wear your jazz shoes, like and
And
yeah. But I remember who I danced with, but I can't remember his name. Um, but I remember it was fun but also chaotic because
okay.
I was like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yep.
And it's like you're dancing with so many different people with different styles, and some people are like more extra than others. And
Yes.
that they actually fell with like another couple.
Oh
Like we
my gosh.
collapsed on top of each other.
That's when doing too much at once.
Yes. I
Yes,
was
because
like, okay.
my God, I'm sorry. I'm glad at least, and it's when you say that, I think of many people that I've talked to that as you can say it and laugh. There's other people that I've met, they said it and it scared them
Oh my
because going
God.
to your first social dance and if it doesn't go the way you expected, it kind of deters you, it kind of scares you off.
Hmm.
But it's people like you that, keep coming back. So, you from going from the social dance aspect, even those many years ago with Jimmy Anton's and big up to Jimmy Anton having, I believe, the longest social in New York City to date.
Hmm.
And if
Yes.
people didn't realize Jimmy Anton's, especially the old location, it had maybe some shows. Don't get me wrong, it had shows, but the main thing was the dancing. That was it. That was where
Hmm.
people went to go to perform, not even perform, to
Just.
really network, socialize from New Jersey, Connecticut, New York, everywhere. Even people from all over the world would come to Jimmy's. So
Hmm.
that right there was an experience in itself. So now, you going from just being the novice dancer, learning in your classes, to then going to socials, what was the experience like for you now performing? I think you're on
Oh,
mute. Oh, gotcha. You think you're good.
people are trying to FaceTime me. um, so performing, as far as like, what do you mean? Like how it feels to perform,
Yeah,
or
like, when you actually had your first performance, going from just, social dancing now backstage and you're having your first show.
okay? So my first salsa performance
Mhm.
was I was 15. It was a group of 4 girls,
Mhm.
and Kimberly Rivera was the director at the time.
Wow.
Yeah, because at that when I started dancing when I was 15, she was with Marcus.
Yes. Wow. That's
Yeah.
interesting because Kimberly, before that, I remember, of course, she danced with Eddie Torres as well.
Hmm.
And Marcus was also an Eddie Torres dancer.
Yes.
And Kimberly used to teach kids in the Bronx with my
Right.
sister. So I'm going
Hmm.
way back with Kimberly. Big shout
Yeah.
out now. So see, many people wouldn't even know that.
Exactly. There's so much history. Um, but yeah, Kimberly Rivera was the choreographer and director of the girl group that I was in for the studio. Um, and that was like a great experience. I mean, it was, the adrenaline, and
Mhm.
it was definitely something enjoyable. Um, Performing as an adult,
Yeah.
that's a story. So my first partner work performance,
Yes.
okay, was with Marcus.
Okay.
And it was actually not only my first partner work performance, but my first time at a Congress.
This isn't like a social. This is like at a
Yeah.
Congress. Oh wow.
So it was my first time at the New York Congress, my first time performing with Marcus, and my first time performing partner work. And we were dancing with LSD Milan.
Wow, Latin soul. Yes. And was that
Yes.
with
So
Adolfo?
with Adolfo, yeah.
Yes.
So Adolfo had his team come from Italy, Latin soul dancers, and it
Mhm.
was it was the year. Oof, it's like 2009. So I think Adolfo had probably just moved to Italy. It was like one of his first groups from Italy that he brought over
Mhm.
here. I think at the time he was dancing with Carla Bocconi.
Yes. Wow.
Um,
See, I know who she is, but many people who don't.
yeah.
And that's history right there.
So the funny story is we had about 3 weeks to the New York Congress,
Wow.
and Adolfo calls Marcus and he's like, "Bro, I'm coming to New York. I want you to dance. Here's the videos to the routine that you have to learn." And then Marcus was like, "Okay, sure." So in 3 weeks by video, we learned the choreography.
Mhm.
I was scared out of my mind, and it was also scary for Marcus because obviously he's never performed with me before,
Yes.
and I had only been dancing for like 3 years. And then we only had about the week before the Congress to rehearse
Mhm.
with the group, and all of that. And it was his first time performing in a long time, like in years, because
Yeah.
he was dancing with Eddie. He stopped dancing with Eddie. He had performed with Kimberly for a little bit, and with Adolfo, and it was like him, Melissa,
Mm.
Kim. Um, so it had been a while since he danced too, but I mean the performance went well, thank God.
Hey, that's a good thing. And when you said that, it's funny because I've known Marcus quite some time. I even would say dating back maybe even towards 2009. And I was a part of a group called East Side Edition. It was an all-guy group. And I still remember Marcus. One thing I can say and I love about Marcus, he's straightforward. He will tell you like it is, whether you like it or not. And for me, I love that because we're in an industry that many people would just say, "Oh my God, you did amazing." But you can look through them and tell when they're being real, being fake. But realizing having a person like himself who's had that history, you being put in that position of performing with him, but alongside other people that have been dancing for years, that was a moment you capitalized on.
Yeah, I feel like he always says to me like, you were nervous. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I wasn't. Here's the thing: when I first started dancing,
Mhm.
I was already used to performing. I was already used to
Yes.
being on stage. And the only at that time, and I wish I still had this like innocence in my
Mhm.
mind, because back then I wasn't scared to dance. And
Yeah.
okay, New York Congress, big deal. It's just a big old stage. Like,
Yeah.
all right, I've been doing this forever. So like back then I didn't know how famous Adolfo was, or I didn't know who
Mm.
this person was or that person was, or the expectations of people in the
Yeah.
audience. And when you don't know these things, getting on stage back then was like more for fun,
Yeah.
but then now it's like I get on stage and I'm like dancing with LSD, I'm gonna be like,
Oh, okay.
like, let me not mess up. Let me not mess up.
But
You
it's
know?
interesting you say that, Diana, because having that, in a sense, naiveness was actually, I think, more beneficial because
Yes.
how many people would be put in that position and just be almost scared shitless? But you
Hmm.
having that notion of not really knowing who they are, being put in that position and actually, doing your routine, doing well, but then later on understanding what you were part of that, really that history, that's special.
Yeah.
And so you going from like that first congress, that first show with Marcus, and of course you being a part of MDN, what was that transition like for you now, going from dating back to when you first started to now really becoming a teacher? What is that feeling like of now having people look at you and learning from you?
It's definitely fulfilling
Hmm.
to see like the progress and to like be able to give people advice on how to
Yes.
like get better and how not to give up. And you just take your experiences and you kind of pass them on to other people, and make their growing process easier,
Hmm.
because starting out dancing, it's tough. You always want to quit, you're hard on yourself, you don't want to look at yourself, you get frustrated. So it's like I try to help people through those frustrations, and then when you see them finally like blossom into this like
Yeah.
fierce dancer, it's like super confident, and they're like, you changed my life, like now I feel so
Yeah.
much better, and it's like, oh, that's
Thank,
awesome.
thank. And when I hear that answer, I can see just even through the facial expressions, a lot of us as dancers have those notions of it's almost hard to take compliments because for some, it's almost like I don't know if I'm in that position. I'm not saying you, but I've talked to people and understanding that many artists always say that they're still learning. They're
Hmm.
never going to be quote unquote good enough. But then I think when it becomes you becoming a teacher, and now the kind of the roles are reversed of you being the student at one point, and you're always going to be a student of the game, as they say, but now having people who are paying their money to be taught by you and progress through your teachings, that's something totally different because I've seen you for years, whether it's solos, whether it's partner work, whether it's now having your own ladies teams, just seeing the smiles on these ladies' faces, just seeing the videos when you guys would have classes and post and seeing really the hundreds of people. That's right there. That right there shows the camaraderie, shows the community actually believes in a studio like yourself. So for me now, as you've kind of highlighted really the starts and when things really started progressing. And of course, over the years, you've been able to perform and travel. What was it like now? And before we get really into the COVID and then kind of present day, what was that feeling like now of traveling overseas to going to places in Europe and now performing? Did it feel different than just performing in the States?
um I would say when I travel overseas, I feel more appreciated.
I totally understand.
Yeah. I
Hey, you
feel
gotta
like,
be honest.
yeah, I feel like, if I go to Peru, if I go to Europe, I feel like they appreciate the culture more than we do
Yeah.
here. I feel like we kind of take it for granted,
Yes.
since we ha- since we since our dance is so accessible to us and our music
Mhm.
is so accessible to us. These people, there's dancers all over the world that they learn off of YouTube. Like they don't
Yeah.
have the advantages that we have having the Mambo King right there in New York
Yes.
City, so super accessible. There's so many people you can train from out here, and
Mhm.
these people are hundreds thousands of miles away and they only see us by video, but they love the dance. It's like even their response to a performance, you know, the way they cheer, the way they support you, the way they greet you, it's like the feeling is different. You kind of just want to stay over there.
Hey, I don't disagree because talking to many artists from the States, but also from Europe, it's always been that. And I can say, talking to an artist recently from Europe, they told me in reality in Europe, they care more about the fundamentals in social dancing and classes than they do about performing, because there are performers, but not like in the States when in Jersey or New York alone, you got a school in every freaking county, every freaking borough, and it can become oversaturated. But for me, one thing I can say I truly respect about MDN is when you say a school, that is a school. Because I still remember one of the biggest events I seen was Salsa Mania had the MDN invasion, and it literally felt like everyone there was from MDN. And I was like, wow, it filled the whole space. And I remember I was standing next to Marcus near the bar talking to him, and I was looked at him. I said, "This is you? This is all of you guys?" He was like, "Yeah, we still got more people coming." And I'm like, whoa, because when I talk about it, it's a rarity to have schools now. There are schools, but not many that have such a large following. But also I can say from the schools, from the women's teams, the partner work teams, and etc. The one thing I can say that I love about MDN alone, the timing. You guys have timing because that is a big problem with people who perform. And I have to be honest, as a performer, nothing is worse than watching a show and it's off timing.
It's like, where's your six? What are we dancing on?
Like, where's your two? Where's your six? Like, are you stepping? Why is it just turns? Why is it just tricks? And that's something, for me, if you give me more of the fundamentals and you can add everything in between, awesome. But I love that with MDN, it encompasses a lot. Whether it's you have your own little teams, whether it's the ladies teams, or when you had, I believe, Catherine and oh my God, what's his name? What's
Matt.
his name? Matt. When you guys had those teams, and that's special. It's just something different. Something just it gives a new essence to it. So of course, over the years, MDN has been able to accomplish a lot. But just like me, just like you, and many other people, we had to deal through COVID last year. 2020 was a hard year for many, many people throughout the world, but especially our dance community. And it was something you said earlier about you now, the comfort level within yourself, kind of seeing yourself as a dancer through COVID has kind of gotten better, as you said. So, kind of give me an understanding of what you really kind of went through as an artist, but as a person, as a studio owner during COVID.
Um, so dance is our main bread and butter. That's like
Mhm.
that's what we do for a living. That's how we pay our bills. So the first thing you're thinking, when COVID first happened and everyone got shut down, we're like, oh, we'll be fine. Probably for a week, no big deal. 2 weeks, a month, 2 months, 5 months, 6 months, and it was just like, you know, it's a scary time because you're
Yeah.
scavenging. Like, how am I going to live? How am I gonna put food on my table if we can't even open up our space? So we actually started online classes,
Hmm.
which we used to be totally against.
Yeah.
Like for years, people used to say, "Oh, you guys should do online," and we're like, "No." Like, we have a thing about people learning online. Like, it's just not the same experience.
Hmm.
But when you don't have an option,
Yeah.
that's the route you have to go. So I did like a performance project.
Hmm.
Within the first week, I was like, "Who wants to do a performance project? Because you're home bored. Like, let's just
Yeah.
dance." Um, and then Marcus is really on top of the online classes. And I did lady styling for a little bit, but again, like, it's not the same. Like, having
Yeah.
that energy of your students, and then it's kind of like a drag to teach to a camera, and then you can't, there's no one to correct, and you're trying to
Yeah.
find things to say or think of different things someone could be doing wrong so you can correct them without seeing them.
Hmm.
um and our platform wasn't like Zoom, so we couldn't see our students. We
Gotcha.
would just record live. um but that was a little rough, but then we were finally able to open, and obviously people were still scared. So, our classes went from 80, 90 students. And the first month we were here, our classes had like 10, 12.
Mhm.
And it was scary times, to kind of like see like memories on Facebook of our
Oh,
super
yeah.
packed studio. And now we have stickers on our floor 6 feet apart, and you can't have this and that many people. And it's just like,
Mhm.
will we ever recover, you know, and go back to normal? Like, thank God our students were very supportive the whole time through, and we're back to normal again. But,
Mhm.
even still, it's a little scary,
Yeah.
you're watching the news and it's like, oh, not again. I don't think I can do it again. I can't.
Hey,
I
hey,
can't,
trust me. It's not easy, even though, it is not as bad as it was last year. Realizing to dance studios, people have to understand, the public has to understand is that studios also have to follow guidelines provided by the state, because they
Right.
don't realize if you don't, there's things called fines. There are a lot of things that come in between. I've talked to
Oh, yeah.
many studio owners, and places like New York and New Jersey were hot spots at one point, but thankfully now in New York and New Jersey things are looking a lot better. And I'm
Right.
glad at least to see, especially MDN is thriving and succeeding like never before. But also now, I think before we get into our last section called the random, something I really wanted to highlight is really your, I would say, transition from the dance stage now into kind of the beauty world, and realizing you were also on the TV screen for some
Yes.
time. And I believe the program was called, it was on TLC Lifetime. What was that program called again?
American Beauty Star.
Wow. And I remember I did see an episode with you on it. I was like, wait, I had to do a double take. I was like, wait, is this Diana? Like, is this the person I just saw doing a solo? I saw Samania. So kind of give us an understanding now of how that came about and what was that experience like for you?
Okay. So long story short, when you're in dance, you have to know how to do your hair, how to do your makeup. It's just
Hmm.
part of performing,
Yeah.
presentation, So, the more I did it, the better I got, trial and error. And then my friends were like, oh, can you do my makeup for this, my makeup for that? And I'm just like, yeah, sure. And then eventually I was like, maybe I should start charging. So
Yeah.
I, I actually, and they're gonna kill me for saying this, but I have two friends of mine that were getting married, and she had asked me to do her makeup for her wedding, and her fiance at the time was like, "Oh, but who's gonna do your? Is she gonna do your hair? Has she done hair before? Can she handle your kind of hair in the Dominican Republic?"
Oh my God.
So what happened is that because of that, she ended up hiring someone else to do
Hmm.
her hair and her makeup. So I was like, oh, all right. So I was a little mad. Like, dang, okay.
Yeah.
Um, and that literally the next day I enrolled in beauty school because I was like, this is never happening to me again. Like, I don't want
Mm.
anyone to ever say that I can't do hair and makeup as well. So I enrolled in beauty school, a Paul Mitchell school. I did that.
Okay.
Was able to like travel to California for like big events. Um, and then I got casted for American Beauty Star while I was in school.
Mm.
And it's funny because only 3 people were sent the email because the casting person contacted my school. They sent the email to 3 people, and I never got the email. My friend was the one, hey, did you get that email? Are you going to do it? And I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And I submitted my audition tape like the day of the deadline,
Wow.
and I got a call back.
Wow. And just
Yeah.
even now transitioning from like the dancing now into the show American Beauty Star, when
Mhm.
people see you on TV, and of course in that hour or that time slot you have of in that frame, was the how was that experience overall for you, kind of being a part of that project?
Um, so because I have like previous television experience prior,
Hmm.
being on TV wasn't too hard for me because I used to do like interview people and all that stuff, film editing. I used to intern for a TV network.
Mm.
So being on TV wasn't the hard part. The hard part was being away from home for 3 weeks, no contact with the outside world. As soon as you get there, they take your phone.
Oh wow.
Yeah, like they treat you like you're like the president. They're like, nope, suitcase, phone, hand it over. They didn't even give us a room key. Like you're locked in your hotel room until they come knock on your door in the morning, and that's it. Um, so it was very exhausting. We recorded an episode a day. Even though the season was a few months,
Yeah.
every single day was one episode. So we would do 14 hours straight.
Wow.
Yeah, straight of filming. So every day someone was getting eliminated in real life.
Yeah.
But it was the TV show for me was a growing experience
Yeah.
for me personally, because when I first got on the show, I was like very shy, and it's like the person that I am performing is not the person that I am off
Mhm.
stage. It's like, when I'm dancing, I'm like, okay, super fierce. You put your
Yes.
costume on, it's like a cape. But then as soon as I walk off, it's like, who is Diana? Like who,
Mm.
like people have like their self-esteem they have to like
Mhm.
worry about, and like their struggles in life and all that stuff. So being on the show, I within those 3 weeks, I kind of realized like my self-worth,
Mm.
because it's like when people start asking you really personal, like
Yeah.
deep questions about yourself, and they really forces you to like really think. You're like, damn, okay, like I didn't know that I was capable of this and capable of that. And then because I'm not a person that likes to talk about myself.
I
But when you're on a TV show like that, they expose you from the inside
Yeah.
out. So they want to know everything about you, your relationship with your mom, your relationship with your brother and sister, how you grew up. So through those conversations, I was like, damn, I've been through a lot of stuff in my life, and
Yeah.
I've also accomplished a lot of stuff that I haven't given myself credit for.
Mhm.
So being on the show was very empowering. And then coming
Mm.
back from the TV show, it did help me with my dance, because I was like, all right, like I feel more confident. I feel like a more stabilized, empowered woman.
Yeah.
And that's what encouraged me to be brave enough to like expand business wise. You know?
No, absolutely, because and even as we talk, I can see kind of that wall closing in a sense, in a good way, of or breaking, because again, I've realized many people that I talk to, it's hard for them maybe to open up because, like you said, you have that cape when you're on
Mm-hmm.
stage, but when you're off stage, you have to deal with yourself. You have to deal with
Mm,
everything that comes outside of that dance floor, that social event. And you have to deal with the real world, and you
right.
being able to thrive under a project like that in many senses, and I've talked to many people, been a part of projects that casting directors, and when you get into entertainment, it is very invasive, and
Mm-hmm.
it's either you go with the program or they'll find someone else. And but
Exactly.
at the same accord, like you said, you learn from that, and it actually helped you and empowered you. That's something really amazing to hear. And I think now it kind of helps us transition to our last segment called the randoms, which is about 10 questions that I have that can be dance related, life related, beauty related, and hopefully it allows myself and the people watching and listening to get to know you a little bit better. So, Diana, all I need to know is when you are ready.
All right, let's do
All
it.
right. Number one, this is a beauty question. So, and it's more of it's a what happens if. What happens if you put a 40 developer in a person's hair with a red coloring?
40 developer with a red coloring.
Is it bright or is it dull?
Well, it's going to be bright because the developer 40 is going to make the hair process very quickly.
Hey, see, and mind you, didn't think I would know. I used to work at Ricky's and I used to do hair color, and I had to test you. I had to see your skills. I had to see what it was. So that's a little, just a little throw at you.
And I
All
don't
right.
like color.
Hey, I respect it. Trust me, it's not nothing's
It's not
worse
for
than
everyone.
someone coming to you with their hair in their hand and saying, "I need you to help me." There's only so much you can do.
Exactly.
All right,
Like,
number two. Answer me this: if Diana is not dancing, then she is doing blank.
one of my other 10 jobs. If
And
I'm
what?
not dancing, I'm either doing someone's hair, makeup, rhinestoning something
Ooh,
last minute.
okay, I like that because hey, can't always be dance. You got to do something else, and you are, I would say, a jill of all trades because you do so much. All right, number three. Tell me a fun fact about New Jersey.
Fun fact about New Jersey. That's a tough one.
Oh, okay.
Um, I mean, I hear we have really good pizza.
Hey, hey, and you know what? Me coming from New York, I'm gonna agree. New Jersey makes some bomb pizza. So I definitely can't deny that. All right. Number four, when social dancing with you, what is a huge pet peeve of yours? I've heard everything from hygiene to no timing. I mean, everybody has their vices.
I have a few. Okay, a pet peeve. Um, a guy that likes to correct his
Oh,
partner, or like it just keeps trying the same move over and over again, like until I get it. I'm like, I know.
yeah.
That's like number one on the list. No being a
Absolutely.
teacher on the dance floor.
Hey,
Terrible.
thank you. Leave that for the class you just took,
Thank
or leave that,
you.
or contact Diana to take a class at MDN, not on the dance floor. Let's just enjoy this dance. All right,
Exactly.
number five. I'm about to put you on the spot. You're
Oh.
at your favorite Congress right now. The last song. Who are you dancing with?
Oh.
And it be anyone in the world.
Aw. I mean, it would be Marcus if it was anyone in the world.
Oh, okay.
But if it wasn't Marcus, it would have to be someone that has a very good lead.
Okay,
Maybe
because somebody here,
someone
we're
that
gonna figure out who that is. They say they're her hubby. Of course, is the obvious, but as
I
you said,
know. Um, you know, I'm trying to think because the only time I've ever had, I can say that I've had my most memorable dances, other than with Marcus, it was like Adolfo's dancers from back in the day. Because there's
mm.
something about dancers from Europe. I'm sorry, everyone. It's just like the lead is different,
Yeah.
the musicality is different. It's just I feel like I was most ever compatible with
Mhm.
like the Italian dancers.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. It's just I don't
Hey,
know. It's just the
it's
honest truth.
it's your truth and it's honest. So I appreciate it and I don't disagree because I've had some amazing dancers and a lot of times they're not even from the States. And someone else says the LSD fellas
Yes,
can
that's
dance.
right.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Absolutely. All right. Number six. Let's do a softball. What is your favorite color?
Neon yellow.
Oh, okay. You're just like, wow, sensory overload right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Love anything neon.
I love it. I love it. Wow, that makes sense now because I remember you used to have a red and almost neon yellow a costume, if I'm not mistaken, years
Probably.
ago.
I mean,
It's had a
red
little
is
fringe
definitely.
in it. Yeah, I remember. But you know what? I do love that because it pops. It kind of like
Mhm.
it makes people want to look. So I definitely like that because everybody tells me black, white, red, blue. So I definitely love that answer. All right, number. I believe this is number six. No, number six. No, number seven actually. Number
Okay.
seven is if you can have one last meal right now, what would it be?
That's rough.
Yep.
All right. I'm pregnant, so I'm going to save two answers.
Okay.
All right. My ultimate favorite food on the planet is baked mac and cheese.
Oh,
Like
okay.
it has to be done correctly though. Like
Yeah,
straight soulful baked
yeah.
mac and cheese. If it's not baked mac and cheese, it's like mango, salami, and queso.
Mm.
I can
Tres
live off of that for the
golpes.
rest of my life. Yeah.
Okay, okay. I like that. I like that. All right, number 8. We're gonna keep it food related. What is a strange pregnancy craving maybe you or someone else you've known has had?
I really haven't had too many cravings, so um dang, that's strange.
Yeah, like if you've heard from like, a story someone's told you, like someone's told you, like, I've eaten this, you're like, really?
I mean, the strange no, it's not really strange. I mean, there's people that only want to eat pickles.
Yeah, I've seen pickles with peanut butter. I've
Oh
heard,
God, no,
yeah.
that's terrible. That's terrible.
Oh my god, I don't want to put you through that. Well, at least I love your answer at least. All right, our next question here is: if you could be at one event right now, you can close your eyes, wake up, and you're right there. What event would it be? And this is going through your whole dance career, even till now. You could only be at one event. What would that event be?
Mm. All right. The first, I would go back to Mambo Land in Italy. Not Mambo
Okay.
Tuesdays, Mambo Land Tuesdays.
Okay.
Um, Mambo Land in Italy, but the first year.
Mm.
The first year, I think it was at La Camana,
Hmm.
La something. It was like there's, I think it's La Camana. There's a club
Yeah.
in Italy with a stage and a bar and a dance
Okay.
floor. But that, like Mambo Land, the first year,
Hmm.
other than having to take a bus from the hotel to the venue to
Ooh.
dance, but it was the greatest experience of all times. I literally danced every single song that night,
Wow.
nonstop. Every single song. It was such a great time.
Wow. Your feet must have just been hurting, but it was all worth it. So I
It was great.
respect
It
that.
was awesome. Every dance
All
was
right.
awesome.
Our second before last question is: if you could have your own store, and it could be any type of store, what would the name of that store be?
A store?
Yes, if you can have, it can be a clothing store, beauty store, dance shoe store, anything. But what would the name of that store be?
Oh, it would be Diana and Co.
Hey, that was a gimme. I felt like
Yeah.
that was gonna come. That's simplistic. Love it, love it. All right, our last question. And this one I love asking because I feel it's really more introspective and it kind of leaves us on a calming note. But it goes like this: Diana, when everything is said and done, kind of reflecting back on your career and going forward, how would you like to be remembered?
Mm, trying to make people cry.
Hey, I just love hearing the truth because, if you really think about it, also, too, Diana, before you even answer, like, a lot of times when I ask this question, it really makes a lot of dancers think because in reality, a lot of times people have never asked them that. People have never even cared almost. But for me, seeing how long you've been dancing, hearing some of your stories, but also me seeing you throughout the years and even the stories you bring about, how many people can never even understand what it's like? I think it's a question worth asking because being able to celebrate your success is most meaningful to me, but also helping you understand that the dance world does appreciate you because sometimes people don't get it, don't understand. And for me as an artist who was a performer, now a spectator and a filmer, I want to give that recognition to artists like you. And just having you kind of reflect on yourself is definitely something I'm interested in.
All right. Um, what I want to be remembered as, I would say as like a survivor, like
Mm,
just
yeah.
a strong woman that survives through everything and anything that comes my way. You know, as someone that helps people through
Yes.
the things that I have survived, whether in my personal life, whether in my dance life, um, the ups and downs in my career. just someone that, I mean, right now people, they're always calling me like their fairy godmother because I'm always coming to the rescue for
Yeah.
everything. Um, but yeah, just like someone who's literally always there for everyone and that just uses their struggles to give other people strength.
Mm, man, you about to make me cry because I mean, hey, and like you said, kind of the fairy godmother. It seems interesting and funny to some people, but it means so much because you realize over the years, at one point, like you said earlier, someone helped you, and now you're helping them, and that really has come full circle from you entering your first class unknowingly to you actually beginning to love it, and now you're impacting other people's lives. That's something that I can say really comes full circle. And I'm glad that we can do this segment. Got to know you a little bit more, got to know your fascination with tres golpes, baked mac and cheese, different things you like. Your favorite color is neon yellow, and so much more. So thank you again for doing this segment. I think it helps us now transition to the conclusion of our discussion and conversation. And honestly, Diana, from start to finish, I've appreciated everything you said, you exposing really your vulnerability in your life and your story, even though us as people, our lives are like onions, there's so many layers. And really, you kind of giving us a glimpse is a lot more than what most people would know, especially you having a passion for saxophone. Many people probably wouldn't know that just because they just see you dance. But getting to know you, that's something I really love. And, for me, I thank you for your time, your effort. Of course, we know you're a busy woman, but at least before we go, I would love to know if you had any last few words for myself and the audience, but also contact info on how people can take some classes with you and see what you're up to next.
All right. Well, first, thank you so much for having me. This is definitely
Absolutely.
a pleasure.
Thank you.
It was a lot of fun. As far as contacting us for dance, you can visit www.marcusnieves.com. You can contact either Marcus or myself. And if you're interested in hair services or
Okay.
makeup, you can find me on Instagram. It's brushed by Diana, brushed without the E. So BRUSHD
Hey.
by Diana. Very important.
Hey, it's exactly because nothing's worse than people just keep typing that E and not getting through.
Yes.
Absolutely. And, for me as well, just being able to celebrate you as an artist, but also celebrate you as a human being and everything you've been able to accomplish thus far, it means a lot. And really, this is really a part one because I would hope to have you on in the future and really see more about what you're doing, what you're up to, especially the expecting family and everything in
Yes.
between. Honestly, from one artist to another, thank you for what you've done for so many years contributing because we also know how much we sacrifice as artists from all the events and engagements we're not able to attend because we have a show, we have
Mhm.
rehearsal, everything we've been able to sacrifice. But seeing how much you've contributed to our dance community, I thank you. I thank you for coming onto the platform. I thank everyone that's listening and will be listening. This episode will be on Spotify in a couple days. Again, this is episode 158 of the Live Discussions with Diamond podcast. I am Diamond here with the wonderful Diana Osorio-Nieves. So I thank you all for tuning in, listening. We will see you soon. And everyone, please have a great